Bonjour, can you hear me okay? Well, welcome to the panelists. We have got a tighter time frame to work from than we had before, and Jeff will probably yank me off the stage if we go any longer. But I'm excited to be the moderator of this panel. I think we've got a group of fantastic people that bring different lenses to the opportunity and the relationships that can be built in the Indo-Pacific region. And so the way we're going to structure this is each panelist is going to speak for about 8 minutes, just giving their views, where they see the opportunities, what are some of the challenges as they go through it. Then I'm going to ask them a few questions, and if we do have a bit of time too, we'll take some questions from the floor. But this is very much, I think, just a set up for some excellent panels that will be going on during the day on the various different topics that we look at. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump right into it. Laurel, go to you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I could spend 8 minutes at least on each panelist talking about their amazing background. I'm not going to do that. There's a very good description that's there. I'll just say with Laurel that she's what I'd call a tri-sector athlete. She's worked in business, government, the social sector. She played a role in leading investments into Nova Scotia. She's now doing it for Canada, and as the minister said, the door here is open both ways. We want to do more business, have deeper relationships in the region as Canadians, but we also want to attract more investment and relationships into our country. So, Laurel, over to you.
Great, thank you very much. Can folks hear? Yes. I'll just add one thing. In addition to the professional roles that I've had, I think the most important thing for Canadians is that I have lived right across the country. Born in Saskatchewan, grew up in Alberta, lived in Quebec, practiced law in Ontario, elected on Ontario, moved to Nova Scotia, and have had a home in Prince Edward Island for 17 years. So I get Canada from coast to coast to coast. And it's really been a privilege for me to invest in Canada. And for our guests from around the world who are here, let me just pause to say what Invest in Canada does is work to bring targeted FDI into Canada. FDI is a team sport, and there's a lot of our team members in the audience here. But Invest in Canada, our role is to really look for the most transformative investments, the most impactful investments that can come into Canada. And some of those lanes that we're working in right now are particularly connected to energy transition, building out the electric vehicle supply chain, and finding partners around the world. And one of the slogans that we use is finding the best to invest in Canada. And that is really what we're doing. So, à tous nos amis ici, je suis très fière d'avoir la responsabilité et le privilège de gérer les affaires d'Investir au Canada. C'est 5 mois dans cette nouvelle position et je suis très fière d'être retour ici à Singapour. Ça fait plusieurs fois que je suis ici, mais l'énergie qui est ici aujourd'hui, que j'ai vue dans le salon hier, et on le sent. The energy that is happening here on this occasion that I've been privileged to be here, we are really feeling that energy and what is transpiring. So let me dig just a little bit deeper to let the folks know what we do exactly. And I have an ulterior purpose in that, that's because I'm going to recruit you onto our team by the end of my 8 minutes. So I better explain how we work because we're going to do a little bit of recruitment because I think you are part of our team. So we target those investors who are looking to establish operations in Canada, and we're very purposeful about it. We are looking for those who can help us build out our supply chains in Canada, our activities, and who will be bringing their innovation and their knowledge of what is transpiring here around the world. So talked about energy transition, electric vehicles. So talk for a few minutes about electric vehicles. For those of you that know Canada, you know that we have a 50-year history in the automotive industry. We build 2 million autos a year, primarily in the Windsor corridor, and we have an integrated auto sector with the United States. What you might not know is that just last year, we landed the largest automotive investment in Canada's history. And that investment is a joint venture between LGES and Stellantis, who are now building the biggest EV battery facility in the world in Windsor, Ontario. So that's an example of the work that we have already been doing in this part of the world to look for those who are the best to invest, identify those target sectors, and say, you should come to Canada. And what do we talk about when we encourage them to come to Canada? We talk about talent, which is all the responsibility of so many of you in this room. We talk about our multitude of free trade agreements and that you can come to Canada and sell to the rest of the world. The work that Minister Ng has been doing and has brought her into this region 11 times in the last year is a critical component there as well. We talk about our clean energy supply, because there's no doubt that building out the EV supply chain and of the future requires clean energy. So we're doing that. And then our team, which is small but mighty, is very client-focused. We are working with the clients to help them build their internal case, because we recognize FDI is a global competition, and we need to find our internal champions and help them succeed with the conversations they're having internal. We also work with our partners to help them find the site, to help them identify those various, get those, for example, for that largest EV battery plant, we needed to work with our partners in Ontario and the Windsor area to find a site, to put that land together, to be able to get the services and be able to get the various barriers that find themselves into the way of a company doing that, and get them out of the way. Because we feel a sense of urgency in the work that we're doing, and we feel that sense of urgency in the energy transition as well. I'm watching the clock, and I'm thinking that's telling me I have 38 seconds left. Is that?
38 minutes.
Oh, 38. That's excellent. Well, I have a lot to say. So if I have 38 minutes,
but shorter is better.
That's really good. So I'm feeling good about that. So settle in, folks. We're really going to get set. Let me just say, talk about our Indo-Pacific strategy. Our Indo-Pacific strategy is the same strategy that we have had. We have been working in South Korea and Japan as an example for a long period of time. What we're doing now is expanding that, and we're taking those critical areas to identify where else should we be, where are some of those other partners. And I think that is new for us, is the Indo-Pacific strategy is overlaying on top of the strategies that we have previously had to help us expand the work that we're doing. Similarly, it's allowing us to be able to have a grapple hook for a conversation with partners around the world to identify why they would want to come to Canada. If we look at LGES Stellantis, the next piece of that puzzle, which we are actively engaged on right now, is building out the supply chain end-to-end so that we have critical minerals that will go into those batteries, so that we have all of the components, and that lets us work with the partners who have made the decision about Canada to be able to share with their partner organizations that they work with, their supply chain, why they should come to Canada. I'll do a little bit of a shout out for my next panel, which will be with some of those companies, and you'll be able to hear directly from them about why they should come to Canada. So you're thinking that I should wrap up, Dominic? Okay, there's so much to talk about. It's such a privilege to be able to sell Canada around the world, and I look forward to delving into some of the other areas that we're working on and recruiting you to our team as the hour progresses.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Laurel, so much. Kevin, over to you. Your company has been in the region for well over 100 years. You spent a lot of time in the region, actually building the business, so very interested in hearing your perspectives.
Well, thanks, Dom, and Laurel, thanks for leaving me 36 minutes. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Since we're here in Asia, I should be saying ni hao, josan, xin chao, magandang umaga, samapagi. So you'll know which markets we're in as I speak. So we've been in the region for, as Dom said, we've been in the region for 130 years. It's part of the history of the company. Somebody very smart a long time ago in Canada saw what we've been talking about this morning, that there's an immense opportunity in Asia. And I'm always curious when Canadian business people and Canadian government come here and they tell people in Asia that there's an incredible opportunity in Asia. All of you know that, right? All of you live here. All of you are experiencing the opportunity that's here in Asia. If you look at Sun Life, if I'm talking to business people, universities, government that wants to get involved, my message would be get involved. Get over here, get started, start doing things. In 2012, when I first moved to Asia, Sun Life was earning $100 million roughly per year in earnings. Today, we're earning $675 million. And how did we do that? We got involved. We made acquisitions. We did bank assurance deals with some of the best banks in the region. We work closely with our partners, and we have some of the best partners in the region. We got involved, and that turned into an additional, roughly, we moved $100 million of income in. So roughly $475 million, close to $500 million additional income for Sun Life. That, if you looked at a P multiple 11, that's well over $5 billion of value created for our shareholders, 70% of which live in Canada. So if you're a Canadian investor and you're looking for opportunities, Asia's growing at, for us, a 15% CAGR plus earnings per year. You know, Canada, we still see Canada as a growth engine. It's growing at 6. So Asia's still growing at a significantly faster pace than Canada. So I would just say that, you know, being here, getting involved, starting your business, finding the right sorts of partners, building your brand, are all very important to getting that kickoff. And it's more than just being here. It's having a purpose. So our purpose is helping our clients achieve lifetime financial security and live healthier lives. And when we look across Asia, the markets we're in China, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, India, there is close to 3.5 billion people who want to have financial security, who want to live healthier lives. And you know, we can bring the technology, the people, the ideas, working with our partners to help with that. And to give it a perspective, Sun Life today has 85 million clients. Only about 8 million are Canadians. We have close to 50 million clients now in the US, and our US president likes to tell the rest of the team, we have more clients in America than there are Canadians. And so I have to remind him every once in a while, being, you know, having spent so much time in Asia, be careful, because pretty soon we'll have more clients in Asia than there are Americans. And when you put that in perspective, the opportunity here is massive. And I think coming with a purpose, finding the right way to get involved, I would encourage all of us to do that.
Thank you, Kevin. A great overview. I'd like now to turn to Mairead, who's the President and CEO of Export Development Canada, and I think is one of our secret weapons, if you will, for trade and investment. A lot of Canadians are unaware of and need to be more aware of because of the role that they've played. So it might be good just to describe who you are and what you do, as well as your views.
Sure. I'm actually a professional panelist with Dom. That's actually what I've been doing for the last few weeks. But thank you, Dom. Bonjour à tous et à tous. Delighted to be here. C'est un grand plaisir d'être avec vous aujourd'hui. So yes, Export Development Canada, we are Canada's export credit agency. We're very delighted that we support 26,500 Canadian companies on their export journey. We help them in 195 markets around the world. So Kevin, I can't do the hello in every language and every country that EDC supports. That includes what you might think as traditional exporters, our goods on ships leaving Canada, as well as a very growing significant services business and service exports. And we do that providing them knowledge, insurance products, financing products, actually just helping them to understand the markets that they're getting into. So that's what we do. Why are we here? Why are we so excited about this region? Totally agree, Kevin. People that come here recognize why you want to be. But I want to give you the darker side of that, which is why Canada needs to think about this region. So in the last 20 years, Canada's trade performance has reduced. So Canada today used to, in 2020, actually have a 4% share of global exports. Today in 2021, that's 2.3%, and that means prosperity for Canada. That's why it's so important that we actually look beyond our domestic market. It's why we need to improve our productivity. It's why we need to look to export for growth and opportunities, and therefore why Indo-Pacific becomes so important. As Kevin said, this market is outperforming advanced economies. Canada today, 90% of Canadian exports go to advanced economies, and yet the growth is what is predicted, much higher growth rates in developing markets. So if we think of this equation, it's pretty simple. This is the market that we have to be in to grow trade and grow prosperity for Canada. So it's a pretty easy argument. Now, here's for all of you sitting as, if you're Canadian, we actually live in an aging population in North America. This is not the case in Indo-Pacific. It has a growing middle-class population. It has a population that needs what Canada has, whether that's our energy, our ag, to deliver food security. It could be protein. It could be the infrastructure players that we have, advanced manufacturing, technology. There are so many capabilities, together with the values that we bring as Canada and a clear focus on ESG to help attack the problems in the region. Climate action, human rights, and business integrity. So we have a lot that actually will create a win-win between Canada and Indo-Pacific. And it's why at EDC we're so excited to be here. We've had offices in the region for a long period of time. We have offices in Mumbai, Delhi, in Beijing, in Australia as an advanced economy, and our first ever branch was opened in Singapore to be a hub for the region. Today I'm announcing we're also opening a representation in Jakarta and in South Korea in this year, as well as additionally adding resources in Singapore, because we have to attract Canadian companies to this region, and we have to be here to provide them the knowledge, the connections, the actual partnerships, not just the Team Canada partnerships, which are incredibly important, and Laurel and I work on many files together with the Trade Commissioner Services, the Canadian Commercial Corp, but to bring them partners in the region, to bring them entries into supply chains, and to actually make it easier for Canadian companies to access some of the opportunities that are in Canada. So I'm super excited, Dom. I wish this was the post-afternoon session so that I could really pump you up on this, but it is the first thing in the morning, and I think we have to really target the region because Canadians, all Canadians, demand us to be responsible in building their prosperity for the future and to help solve the world's problems. And we can do all of that.
Thank you so much, Mairead. One little fact, I think, reinforcing what Mairead's saying is our SMEs are the least globalized of any of the top 30 economies in the world. And part of that is awareness of what's going on, but also managing the risk, dealing with the financing and so forth. And that's where I think EDC plays such a critical role for many, many companies and will in the future. So thanks again, Mairead. Wayne, over to you. Wayne is the Deputy Chairman and Head of the Ultra High Net Worth Clients for the Royal Bank of Canada. The Royal Bank of Canada is one of the absolute largest, most profitable and dynamic banks in the world. If you are doing anything to do with ultra high net worth, it's not a surprise that Wayne's here, particularly in this city, which has become a center for it. So again, would love to hear your perspectives on the region, the opportunities.
Thanks very much, Dom. I appreciate that. And I'm pumped up already, so thank you for getting this started. We are delighted to be here. We're delighted to be a sponsor of this event. The CIAC is so important to us. I have many of my colleagues here from our hubs in both Singapore and Hong Kong. I hope you'll have the opportunity to meet them over the next couple of days because we're very excited to participate in the growth in the region. I do want to spend a moment on RBC because not everybody will know it, and Dom, I appreciate your kind comments. We were founded in 1864, so we've been around for a while. We operate in 30 countries. We serve about 17 million clients, and we have about 100,000 employees. At any given time, depending on what the Canadian dollar trades at, we're a top 10 bank by market capitalization. That is not our ambition to be large, though. Our ambition is to be among the world's most respected financial institutions. Today, we're one of the highest rated from a credit quality perspective, and we're also one of the most highly valued based on price to earnings. And those kind of characteristics are far more important to us than absolute size. We've been a long-standing believer in stakeholder capitalism long before it was fashionable. We look to find the balance between shareholders, employees, customers, and communities. In fact, our ambition is to, our purpose, as we like to say, that binds us all together, is to help clients thrive and communities prosper. And I think it comes right back to Kevin's points about how important that sense of purpose really is and how you bring it to the different markets around the world in which you operate. For us, that means the kind of themes that are being talked at here at CIAC are extremely important. We believe in the ability to innovate, to partner between Canada and Asia, and certainly reinforce the role of corporate Canada in finding solutions around climate change, food security, energy security, educating and developing people around the globe, all really important to us and important parts of the discussion here today. Our corporate historian wrote our history about 20 years ago, and he entitled the book Quick to the Frontier. And I think that spirit thrives in RBC still today. It means we're establishing an artificial intelligence think tank that is bringing all kinds of new solutions to our clients. It's called Borealis, and we provided AI-supported trading solutions for our clients. It's allowed us to use machine learning and big data to provide new solutions to our merchant clients across Canada and other parts of the world. And so that quick to the frontier sentiment brought us to Asia more than 50 years ago. Now, Kevin will say we're not fleet of foot, but we were one of the first banks to come into the region. We're the only bank still in Canada from Canada to have a banking license in Japan. We know the frontier remains Asia. For all the reasons that you've highlighted and other speakers this morning, growth in the region is extremely important, and we want to be able to participate and contribute to that growth in a meaningful way and where we can make a difference. We see the activities of our large corporate and institutional clients. They continue to be very active in the region and growing. We see the need for our small business clients, particularly those in Canada and the United States, to be able to connect into this region. We see the amount of wealth that's being created, the formations of family offices, notably here in Singapore, the movement of family offices to set up satellites in Canada and other parts of the world, and we can help to facilitate and drive that. So all of our business units become a really important part of the Asia strategy for us. They're important business units in their own right in the region and important extensions of the three operating platforms that we have and run our organization through. Our capital markets business is there to provide global market solutions for our clients in the region. We provide advisory, cross-border advisory services, today out of a hub in Hong Kong, but increasingly we're expanding that and looking at opportunities in this market as well. We have a wealth management business that's based here in the region. Very important as we follow what we characterize as Asia's global families, the ones that have cross-border requirements, that need the kind of wealth planning that our teams can provide, and we can grow and travel the globe with them and provide that level of support. And in Canada, where our primary retail business is, personal and commercial banking, the inflows coming from this region are critically important, as are the inflows of talent. And so educating and developing a workforce that is desperately required in Canada is a really important part of that. And then providing support as particularly those smaller businesses that aren't in the capital market space start to think about this region and the kind of growth that you've characterized. We need to be able to facilitate that support in that movement. It is one of the reasons that late last year, we announced our intention to acquire HSBC Canada. It creates a step change in our relationship with this region and the number of clients that we have to support it. And we're enthusiastic, subject to the approvals that are still to come, that it will create more opportunity to partner here in Asia.
Thank you so much, Wayne. I'm going to shift over to Deep Saini, who is the incoming Principal and Vice-Chancellor, I think the Vice-Chancellor Designate for McGill University, was previously the President of Dalhousie, and also is a board vice chair with Universities Canada, with Paul, with the group. But before saying it, because I'm so excited that we have such an amazing university presence that's here, and I think as business leaders, we completely underestimate the importance of university. I just wanted, if you would let me tell one story. I won't be taking up your time on this, so don't worry. But one story that illustrated to me, when I was in China in my previous role in October 2019, it was a particularly chilly period in the relationship, as one could describe it. And in that situation, not many people wanted to come and visit the embassy, and not many people wanted to meet me in it. And our economic counselor, one of Dan Koldick, who's a wonderful guy, and Ambassador May, I think, is here, brilliant person. He said, I want to host in the embassy, in your residence, all of like a financial group in China. And I said, Dan, you got to be kidding. Like I can't take. We can host 150 people. 3 people are going to show up. I just can't take that much rejection in this thing. So let's just not do it. And he said, buckle up. We're going to do it. So I was telling all of the support staff and so forth, bring 3 hors d'oeuvres and maybe 1 bottle of wine, and we'll see what happens. And what happened actually was the place was completely packed, and it wasn't Canadian people that were coming in there. It was packed with Chinese financial services executives, and at some of the most senior levels in the Chinese system. And it was packed, and I was actually bewildered. And my first comments, which probably is not very diplomatic, is, I'm shocked that you're here. And what it turned out is all of those people went to university in Canada, and they had a deep emotional bond to Canada at the highest level. And the phrases were, my mother is Chinese, my spouse is Canadian, because of that experience. And I've never forgotten it. I have no idea what we talked about. I have no idea what we were doing in that session, but I remember that feeling. And that's something I think in Canada that we underappreciate. That's just one dimension of what universities do, because it's our values, how we work and operate. Anyhow, enough of the intro to you.
Thank you, Dom. Is this on? Yeah. And good morning, everybody. Bonjour à tous. It is such a pleasure to be with you here, representing both Universities Canada and in a tiny way, McGill University. I'm not quite there yet. I'll be there soon. But it is a pleasure to be sitting in front of you here. Much has been said about why Asia is important. I'm going to add a couple of things to that. And Mairead, you have already signaled one. Just look around. Asia is young. Most of it is very young. It's vibrant. It's confident. It's very ambitious. And it's increasingly very assertive. And that's coming from the youth of Asia. Universities, we are in the business of youth. We are in the business of young. And that's why it's so important to us here in Asia. Second reason why it's important to us, international students are critical for the success of Canadian universities. And Asia is the most significant source of international students for our universities in Canada. And without that, our entire university model would be in some difficulty. So I'll come back to that in a moment. So those are the 2 additional reasons I want to signal why Asia is important. Let me say a few words from the Universities Canada perspective, and that's on behalf of all our universities, just to give a sense of what it is that we do here in Asia and as we do in internationally in the rest of the world. Canada has amongst the best universities in the world, so that doesn't need to be said. The world knows that. And Paul has already signaled, Canada is the 4th most significant recipient country for international students in the world. So what we do when we go abroad, including here in Asia, number 1, we are here to recruit more and brighter students. We are also very interested in, and increasingly so, in outward student mobility, whether it is to come and study here in universities abroad or to engage in experiential learning through co-op and other forms of experiential learning. We are deeply involved in research collaborations abroad. That's with institutions here, with private sector. Often that private sector is either local or Canadian companies that we work with all over the world. Our alumni are very important. Canadian alumni are all over the place. In McGill's case, we have our alumni in 185 countries, and probably the largest number of our alumni outside Canada and US is in this part of the world. We are engaged in economic and social development of countries where we operate. That is our role, our part in Canadian diplomacy abroad. We call it the educational diplomacy, and we are the carriers, vanguard of Canadian values abroad. And we spread them, and we've been doing that for a long, long time. Now, among all of those things, there is a critical relationship between the first and all the rest of them, and that is student recruitment. Without robust student recruitment in Asia and elsewhere, particularly Asia, because this is the dominant source of students for us, none of the other things work very well, because the present financial model for running our universities is dependent on a healthy supply of international students to Canadian universities. Conversely, for universities, if all the other things are not done well, eventually the world is moving in a direction that eventually our student recruitment will suffer in relation to our competition elsewhere. So we need to pay attention to both of those things in a balanced way. Now, let me come to McGill very briefly. I haven't quite started at McGill, so I can't really speak with authority about McGill's strategy in the region. But I can tell you that as a new principal or president arrives at a university, there's always a rethink about the strategy of the university. And I've already started conversations with my colleagues at McGill, and I can give you a bit of a preview of where McGill's thinking is right now. Now, McGill is Canada's original international university. McGill was international 100 years ago, before international was even a thing. And we have alumni here. You just walk on the street, and if you haven't run into a McGill alumnus, then you haven't been in Singapore or any country in Asia, actually, for that matter. So international is critically important to us. Where is my mindset on this? Just last week, very interestingly, I was at a Canadians versus Oilers hockey game in Montreal, and that brought the thought of Wayne Gretzky to my mind. Those of you who are old enough to remember Wayne Gretzky, I am certainly, and his famous words about, I skate to where the puck is going, not where the puck has been or puck is. And I think that's critical for our universities, including McGill. We have to pay attention to where the puck is going, not where the puck is. And that's a critical part of our strategy, and at McGill, that will be the most important part of our strategy. The pandemic is going to play, is already playing actually a very important role in the way universities operate internationally, especially here, and the way McGill will. Pandemic has changed everything. Within a space of a week, our classroom shifted to being highly distributed internationally. And I don't think anything like that happened to any other sector of the economy, and it's probably not well understood. I was at Dalhousie when that happened. We had 4 people working on distant learning through online learning. Within a week, we shut down for a week. We relaunched. Within a week, we had 44 people working in that division, and we had put over 2,000 of our courses online, and our students had dispersed all over the world. And that is a massive paradigm shift, which caused problems for us, but also revealed opportunities. And seizing those opportunities, and we can go into those when we get into discussion, is going to be a critical part of our strategy. Nature of work has changed for us. Nature of teaching learning has changed. And while we were going through the pandemic, 2 other critical things changed for us. Geopolitics changed, not necessarily because of pandemic, but it happened during the pandemic. And when we emerged, we are emerging into an entirely different world than we entered, the pandemic. When we entered the pandemic, and the economic conditions have changed. So those are the circumstances in which we are going to be operating. And as we strategize what we are going to be doing here, one most important thing that we have to keep in mind for McGill, and that is that the old paradigm is just not going to work anymore, the way we just have a flow of students to Canada, and those students then are educated. Some of them stay there and do good for Canada. Others come here and do good for their countries here and do good for us as well in turn. We are going to have to be present on the ground, and Asia is asking for that increasingly. As I travel, and this is my second country I've traveled to in last 4 months, I was in India. It's the same question there. Why are you not here? That is the question. We cannot operate remotely anymore. We have to be present on the ground. And our alumni who are already here, they are going to be a critically important resource for us in priming the pump for that. And for those of us, McGill, University of Toronto, UBC, and Calgary, and so on, those of us who have been international for a long time, we already have that asset on the ground. Those of us who are new in the game, and they're still building their alumni assets internationally, that's a critical thing to pay attention to, engaging with your alumni, because that's about the story of when is a good time to plant a tree. 20 years ago, second good time to plant a tree is now. So I'll stop with that.
Thank you. Excellent. So, thank you so much. We've got about 10 minutes for just some quick banter. And maybe, again, if people have a question that they want to ask, stand up and yell at me. We'll go with that. But the first question I just want to ask is actually to Kevin, Mairead, and Wayne, just maybe from a business point of view. You know, one of you mentioned it's not. You know, we're talking about. Minister Ng talked about this region will have half the world's GDP by 2040, 2/3 of the middle class. This isn't news, right? We know. So why are we so slow in Canada to do it? What's holding? It's 130 years for Sun Life. What's blocking us from recognizing that potential? I'm just curious to what do you think it is? As you talk to peers you're with and so forth.
I don't know if I know the answer to that, Dom, since we've been involved, but I would say that it takes an initial investment anytime you start a new business, and if you start, and there is no one Asia, right? Asia is multiple countries, all with different cultures, all with different business structures. So you can imagine this taking 2 to 5 years in each country to start earning income, to start getting traction. You can't come here and understand it that quickly. I'm not sure that public companies are set up to spend 5, 10, 15 years of building something that's going to be there for 15, 30 years away. So I think we benefited from being here 130 years ago and having a footprint. And once we sort of committed to that footprint, you saw the change. So it's all I would say is that it's to the 20-year story, right? The best time to have started was 130 years ago. The second best time was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. So I think you have to do it, but you have to know that the returns aren't going to come for a while.
Excellent. Mairead?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of different responses to this. I have the politically correct response, and then I have the non-politically correct response, right? So, the non-politically correct, Kevin, just to be clear. Look, our largest trading partner is the US. It's too easy. It's too easy in Canada, and there's a lack of ambition with some of our Canadian companies. We see it in succession of Canadian companies. We see it with Canadian companies building to a certain stage and then selling out. We see the capital markets aren't necessarily there to support the succession within Canada. So in a way, the non-political answer is too easy and not enough ambition. But we do then have to look at some structural issues. So Canada is made up, as you mentioned, Dom, of small, medium-sized companies. It is a challenge. Let's not recognize, to your point, Kevin, it is a very varied market. And actually making that move into a market and putting a presence there is not easy from a capability and a capacity perspective. So the structure of Canadian business actually prevents it. And then I think ESG is a challenge in this market. Like, let's call it for what it is. It's very challenging to understand perhaps regulation. It's also challenging to understand the business practices and what that means vis-a-vis business integrity, anti-corruption, financial crime. It's challenging to understand supply chains, where human rights and Canadian laws are moving much more rigorously in that direction, and transparency in supply chains. So if you don't have a presence here, who do you partner with and how do you make that happen? And notwithstanding the opportunity that climate action presents to Canadian companies, there's equally understanding what does your GHG profile look like when you embrace Asian supply chains that depend on fossil fuels for energy. So there's absolutely challenges. Can they be overcome? Yes, we've got great examples of Canadian companies that have done it. And that's why we're here, to try and help companies see a path through all of that. But we need companies with ambition.
Very helpful. Thank you. Wayne.
Yeah, I think that was really well covered, because I would have characterized many of the same things. I do think it is much too easy to look to the United States for growth and draw that off there. I think most of our businesses are small and mid-sized businesses. It's just easier to look south of the border. It's harder to look elsewhere. And so the only thing I'd perhaps add a little bit is the nature of the public-private partnerships that we need to create to streamline the work that needs to be done, to take some of the friction out of the regulation. Cross-border business is much harder to do today than it was 10 years ago, and much harder than it was 20 years ago. And so I think there's a lot of work in front of us to do that as well.
Great. Thank you, Wayne. Laurel, what you're doing and the ambition that you set out is wonderful. But I remember, in the first stages when Invest Canada was set up and talking to some outside investors, the sort of reaction was, Canada's one of the richest countries in the world. What the hell? Why do you need money coming in? And I'm just, and the example you gave of the battery plant, one of the largest in the world that was built. Maybe just how do you sort of respond to that, and then encourage people to say we do actually need the money?
So when we talk about transformative investments, I think what we mean is we are going to build something that doesn't exist right now. So whether it's alternative proteins, quantum, whether it's ag tech, whether it's ocean tech, whether it's batteries. So we need the best knowledge, and we need those globally connected companies to come to Canada to tackle the issue that Mairead is talking about. We have amazing companies in Canada, but we also need to have those global players to come in and to be able to bring that global mindedness. And with the last couple of seconds, let me just say, we also need your help, because you are globally connected. You know who those players are, and we really want to get your advice and insight to identify who those might be and bring them to Canada. We're privileged to talk about the great things that Canada has, and we want to help you do that too in your homes around this part of the world.
Thank you. Deep, you mentioned again the importance of recruitment, and you talked about having a presence and so forth. And it's wonderful that we're fourth in the world in terms of that, but there's obviously a lot of competition out there. What are some of the things that we need to debottleneck to make that easier? Are there things that are getting in the way of us being able to attract people? Are people aware? Is it some of our internal processes that make it difficult in country? I'd just be curious to just some observations you might have on that.
Yeah, thank you. I could talk for the next hour about the visa problems. So other than mention that, I'm not going to say any more. I think that's, if we could do one single thing that it would make, that would make Canada more attractive and more competitive, that would be fixing our visa problem. In addition, in the few moments that I have left, I would like to signal one more thing to my colleagues, it's mainly to our university colleagues here who are here, that we are not in a static world. Competition from universities elsewhere is constantly there and is heating up constantly. And the if we are going to continue to attract international students, we need to make sure that as Canadian universities, we constantly strive to stay the excellent universities that we are, and so there has to be a relentless pursuit of excellence. Without that, we will falter.
Excellent. Thank you, Deep. So I have time for one question. Sorry, okay, what we're going to do is we'll take two questions. Oh, sorry. We're going to take two questions and then, but not answer them sequentially. So, and you got about 15 seconds, apparently, according to my friend here, to give the question.
Thank you. This has been very, very good. I've heard Invest Canada, I've heard Export Development Canada. What do we have in Canada that can help Canadian companies come to Asia to access things like industrial parks? I know of one in Thailand, I used to work for one, and they're happy to see more Canadian clients.
Thank you. Nav, did you have a question?
Yeah, just to build on that. Never give a former politician a mic. Just to build on that, how do we leverage our diaspora? I just would curious to know what your strategies are on that.
Okay. How about a quick response?
I'll go very quick.
Go first.
I think about leveraging our diaspora every single day. It is our mission to be able to find a path to give you the information that you need, to give us the leads, and to work together. So if those folks want to find us out as we leave this room, we'd love to work with you on that. It's an active file in our shop.
And I would say some of our best resources are people from the countries we do business here who went to school in Canada, because they understand the culture, they understand how the business works, they know who Sun Life is. So one of the things I'm going to do with my team is I'm going to go figure out how many of our employees in Asia, we have 26,000, studied in Canada, because I think it'll be interesting to see. And the other place we've benefited, though, is immigration. And I think a lot of these countries also are providing immigrants. A lot of those immigrants go through university in Canada, and they want to come back to work in Asia, and that's also been a great resource for us. So I think because you understand both cultures, it makes for a really symbiotic relationship.
Thanks, Kevin.
Trade Commissioner Service, big plug for them. They're in market. They're in many, many markets around the world, and they have access to the local relationships, the local knowledge. You have got to be engaging with the Trade Commissioner Service when you go into market. So big plug for my government partners.
Thank you. Wayne? Oh. Deep, you close
Just
us
a couple
off.
of words.
You'll close us off. Yeah.
I would say the pandemic is over. The virus is not gone away. The pandemic is over. Let's get over the pandemic. I think we need to do that. Just look around here in Singapore. I was in India. I looked around there. I was in Israel before that. I saw it there. Those countries are over the pandemic. They're getting on with life. We're still talking about whether there's going to be another truck convoy in Ottawa. So let's just get over pandemic and get on with the business.
Thank you. Can you join me in thanking this excellent panel?